Live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here on GameNight on 97.3 ESPN, a Friday edition. It's actually the first non-football Friday of the year. How about that? The first non-football Friday, and I got to admit, I'm a little sad. But it doesn't mean we're not talking football today, because Nick Sirianni spoke to the media today, and I'm still trying to figure out what the heck he said halftime. I also still don't understand why Jeffrey Lurie had to speak for about 15, 20 minutes before Sirianni talked, and he took no questions for the media. So we got a lot to get into on that front. Plus, we got Sixers versus the TWolves tonight at 8 o'clock. They're in Minnesota, so it's the little bit of a different start time tonight for the 76ers here on 97.3 ESPN. Our own Jason Blevins from 97.3 ESPN.com. He is going to be on the Doc Rivers media call. And as soon as he is done, he is going to jump on the show tonight at 6:42. Doc Rivers is supposed to speak to the media at 6:30. And as soon as Doc is done, Blevins is going to jump right on the show because he's just that kind of guy. We're going to get all the details. Is Joel Embiid playing tonight? What's going on? We need to know. The people have questions. You know, if you're someone who, I've had people tell me, they listen to the show for DFS ideas, right? Well, if Joel Embiid doesn't play tonight, that might change your DFS lineup or might change a sportsbook line. Does the line get bigger or smaller if Embiid is announced officially out tonight? He's currently day to day. So a lot to keep track of. Again, Blevins will join us coming up at 6:42 after the press conference. Well, the press meeting with Doc Rivers. He'll join us here on 97.3 ESPN. The text board is open at 609-403-0973 to get on the conversation. 609-403-0973. Of course, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just go to 97.3 ESPN on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You can watch the show live here in the Matt Black Kia Studios on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you. So we got to get into this stuff with Nick Sirianni speaking to the media today. Now, first of all, I preface everything I say with a disclaimer. I don't hate the guy. I'm not against the guy. I'm not going to sit here and condemn the guy. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a bum, he's a failure, he can't talk. Because guess what? His first press conference ever as this position in the NFL. He's never been a head coach at any level. So the guy was probably nervous. The guy was speaking to an empty room with a screen in it. So the whole situation is awkward. He's nervous. I'm not going to get mad at him. They might have flubbed the word here or there. So that's why, whether it's a sports bash with Mike Gill and Hunter Brody or myself, we're not airing the entirety of the press conference because it's not worth having to explain that. But when he was asked questions, that's what we got to get into. Because, first of all, the fact that Sirianni had to spend all that time answering questions and the owner went on this 16, 20-minute diatribe and answered no questions is an embarrassment. All right? I went back and watched the Doug Peterson presser from 2016, where Doug Peterson wore a suit for the first and last time in his illustrious Eagles coaching career. Jeffrey Lurie answered questions during that press conference. Jeffrey Lurie only spoke for about 5 minutes, and then Doug came up. So, what? Jeffrey Lurie is too good to speak to the media, answer questions? Mr. Lurie is scared of media questions? Was he advised not to speak to the media because they were afraid of being asked certain questions? I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. The owner should be speaking. If he's part of the media call, everybody else can figure out how to do these Zoom calls, right? Everybody on planet Earth can figure out how to bounce back and forth between Zoom screens and Zoom calls, etc. Meanwhile, the Eagles are having, the owners speak for an opening statement, says nothing else, and just goes away. Not a fan of it. Don't like it. So you leave Sirianni up there to answer the questions. So that's the first negative in terms of the situation, at least in my opinion. Then what happens? Well, Sirianni gets asked multiple times about the quarterback situation. And again, I don't hate the guy for answering the questions this way, but listen to what Sirianni said about the starting quarterback situation. I mean, he literally just gives you a no answer here.
That's something that we have to look and evaluate. And I'm not ready to say that either way yet. We're just evaluating our players, evaluating every position, and every position, right? We don't know any of these guys really yet from what we've seen on tape so far, because we haven't watched any. So every position that is going to be evaluated, and every position is going to be, open.
So you don't really answer the question. Every position is being evaluated. Every position is open. Great. I'm not even fully sure what that means. Is anybody really sure what that means? I'm certainly not sure what that means. But hey, that's okay. All right. You know what? You're still evaluating. You're still figuring things out. You don't want to give too much away for whatever reason. Fine. But you got to at least give us something. You got to at least give us something to work off of than just we're still evaluating. And I got to be honest with you. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of that answer. By the way, the answers got worse because when he was asked about what did him and Jeffrey Lurie talk about, he brought up the quarterbacks again. And Nick Sirianni says, what?
Many different things that we talked about, players, positions, coaching staff, it was all on the table. And as far as the starter, haven't really thought about that yet, and naming a starter that hasn't even crossed my mind. Again, just trying to evaluate the players.
Haven't even thought about it. The starting quarterback. What? What are you talking about? What do you mean you haven't thought about the starting quarterback? I mean, that's got to be the biggest lie of the press conference, right? Now, I'm sure he was probably advised to say that, but it doesn't make it any better. You are literally at the introductory press conference for a football team that has one of the biggest quarterback controversies in the NFL. And you claim you haven't thought about the starting quarterback, but you claim that you and Jeffrey Lurie talked about everything. But clearly you didn't. Clearly you didn't. My goodness. I mean, how is this even possible? Only with this situation, right? But this guy literally got up there and said, haven't thought about the starting quarterback. You know who has thought about the starting quarterback? Everyone. Everyone has talked about who should be the starter. Everyone has thought about who should be the starter. Every Eagles fan, every NFL fan who has an opinion about anything has thought about this. But Nick Sirianni hasn't thought about it yet. He's got to evaluate film. He's got to study the film more. Got to spend more time. But him and Jeffrey Lurie talked about everything. What? Come on. 609-403-0973 is the text board. Also, get to your comments on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Keep them coming. I'll get to your comments in just a moment. Because I got to play one more specific cut from Sirianni before we get to you guys. Now, it was interesting because Sirianni claims part of his background is, well, I'm still evaluating the roster, but I worked with a lot of quarterbacks in Indianapolis. And I think this is part of the reason why he's not answering these questions. Because I think Sirianni thinks that he's going to come in here, because I coached Phillip Rivers and Jacoby Brissett and Andrew Luck, that what's the difference, right? This was Sirianni talking about having to win in Indianapolis with different types of quarterbacks.
I think it's the same thing that we've went through in Indianapolis. We had to figure out a way to win with each quarterback, and we're going to have to figure out a way to, not only are we going to have to figure out a way to win with each quarterback, we're going to have to figure out a way to win with each offensive lineman and each running back and each receiver and each defensive lineman and each safety and each corner, right? That's going to be the key, again, to figure out what our players do the best and form our system off of that.
Now, I like the answer. So I don't hate him for the answer. He says, listen, we're going to build our system off of that. That's great. I'm cool with that. I don't think it's a bad idea. But let me tell you something. If you're coming into Philadelphia saying I worked with Luck, Brissett, and Rivers, and you think that is suddenly prepared you to be ready for Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts, boy, you probably got another thing coming, man. Josh Hennig here on GameNight on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, the text board is open as well, 609-403-0973. Also, we'll get to your comments on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter on the stream. You can watch the show, 97.3 ESPN, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Game Night here on 97.3 ESPN, along with the Sports Bash with Mike Gill and Hunter Brody, Monday through Friday here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Of course, we'll be joined by Jason Blevins, our Sixers beat reporter, coming up around 6:42 after the Doc Rivers media call. He'll be jumping on the line with us to talk about what exactly Doc said to the media. I'll play a couple more of these Sirianni cuts because I got to start with stuff that frustrates me. And then I'll get to this stuff that I thought were positive takeaways. But let's get to a couple comments on the stream here on who are watching the show. We got the Joe Show chiming in, says if Howie is the one creating the 53-man roster, then Howie should be the one speaking. Joe, nobody knows where Howie Roseman was today. I don't know if he had plans with his family. I don't know if he's on vacation. I don't know where Howie was. I mean, Jeffrey Lurie seemed to try to speak for enough for the both of them, but the whole situation is weird because it's aggravating enough. We're in this COVID environment where everybody's like wondering, like, when are they speaking? You know, what does it look like? I mean, you've probably seen some of the behind the scenes videos of, you know, when the Eagles do their Zoom calls and their media pressers, they go into a side room basically with a screen and talk into the screen. It's not exactly the most aesthetically pleasing environment, to say the least. And now you got a guy in Sirianni standing up at a podium doing basically the same setup. So, but you're right. Where was Howie Roseman today? That's a great question from Joe Show over on YouTube. We got a comment on Facebook from Jim. He says, it means that Nick Sirianni isn't in control. See, I think that's too simplistic, Jim. I think you got to factor in something else. It's not that Sirianni isn't in control. It's that Sirianni is indirectly telling you that nobody wants to answer that question because nobody has figured it out yet. Now, he claimed, I've talked to Carson Wentz, I talked to Jalen Hurts, I talked to all the players. Great. But I got to see and evaluate the film. What that tells me is that the Eagles themselves haven't made a decision yet. Get a couple more comments in here from the Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter streams before we get to the text board at 609-403-0973. James Wood chimes in and says, yeah, talking about him not, and then that's the quarterback. He says, how do you keep the couch coach guessing? Yeah, where the Eagles are worried about the guy sitting on their couch at home who might get an inside information and scoop Schefter, right? No, but seriously though, James, I think part of the problem with the Eagles here is that they're obviously working on scenarios for the quarterback situation next year. And instead of just coming out and saying that, instead of just saying, look, we haven't made a straight up decision yet, They're coming out there and giving you non-answers and telling us, I haven't even thought about the starting quarterback yet. To me, that's the most ridiculous part. You can't get up there and be honest and tell me that you haven't thought about starting quarterback. Everybody in the NFL has thought about this situation. You watch any show about the NFL. You listen to any show about the NFL. You go around the NFL. You interviewed, 11, 12 coaches? And you haven't thought about who the coach is yet? Wow. To me, that's the craziest thing of all. We'll get back to your messages on the Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter streams in just a bit here on GameNight on 97.3 ESPN. A couple texts I want to get to is 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Texture says, coaches show loyalty to players they've drafted or brought in. This is why I think he said every position is under evaluation. He has no ties to any players, so it makes players who may not fit his scheme and plans potentially movable. Texture, I hear exactly what you're saying. But you can't tell me that Nick Sirianni hasn't thought about or talked about or discussed with the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, about what exactly they are going to do with the quarterback situation moving forward. Listen, the fact that he didn't draft or bring any of those players in is a benefit for the Eagles franchise moving forward, and also for the Eagles fan base, that you have a guy who is impartial to the situation. But you can't get up there and say, I haven't thought about it. If Nick Sirianni genuinely hasn't thought about who should be the starting quarterback for the Eagles, then he's the only person in the football world who hasn't. Let's get one more text in here at 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Texture says, why would this coach talk to the media about a quarterback controversy in January? I think your expectations are pretty far-fetched. Well, the reason why I would expect him to talk about it is because it's only the biggest news story in Philadelphia sports. It only has the largest impact on your franchise. The owner himself said the last time he spoke, he called Carson Wentz an asset. The owner said that. So if the owner of the team is referring to the so-called franchise quarterback as an asset, I would hope the head coach of the team, who is a offensive-minded coach, who has coached in the NFL for almost 11 years, might have an opinion on the situation. I don't think that's far-fetched. You know what's far-fetched? The fact that the only time Carson Wentz has spoken to anyone outside that building since December 25th was a video in his support for Rodney McLeod to win the Walter Payton Man of the Year. This dude has been silent and visible for weeks. He declined to speak to the media at the end. And I'm supposed to believe that everything is peachy clean and everything is great in La La Land in Philadelphia. When Carson Wentz doesn't speak, the new head coach thinks that I haven't thought about it yet. I don't know who the starting quarterback is. I got to evaluate more tape. And the owner calls Carson Wentz an asset. Josh Hennig here on GameNight on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get back to your text at 609-403-0973. Plus your comments on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can watch the show live here in the Matt Black Kia Studios on 97.3 ESPN FM. Of course, I'll be giving you my FanDuel Sportsbook pick for the night a little bit later in the show. Also, Jason Blevins joins us at around 6:42. What did Doc Rivers say about Joel Embiid? He speaks to the media about 10 minutes from now, and Blevins will join us with immediate reaction to what Doc Rivers said here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates calling all the play-by-play action.
What a save by
1, 2, 3. Hey, coming up on Monday, Super Bowl week begins. We'll start to look at the big game, plus a busy weekend for the Sixers and the Flyers. We'll go inside the Sixers with Paul Hudrick at 3:20. Football at 4 with Jeff Mosher. Former Seahawks linebacker Lofo Tatupo at 5 o'clock. And don't forget, you can watch the show live on our website, 973ESPN.com.
Challenges, while unique, are another opportunity to show our strength and resilience. Our commitment to you remains strong. Whether it's using our drive-through services, bank by phone, the First Bank mobile app, or online banking, we're staying strong with you. Be safe and be secure. First Bank, here for you.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hey guys, are you afraid of taking off your shirt in public? Don't be embarrassed. Just say, I love Lyle back instead with male breast reduction. Many men develop a fullness in their chest as boys that persists and even worsens as they get older. This condition is called gynecomastia, and with simple liposuction, most cases can be effectively treated. Call 856-MAKEOVER today to schedule your private consultation with Dr. Lyle and Back. That's 856-MAKEOVER, or visit ILoveLyleBack.com.
Babe, look, cash pop from the New Jersey Lottery. We just got to match one number, 1 through 15, to win.
Whoa, so easy.
Our anniversary date? September
6th?
14th.
Not to interrupt you guys, but the more numbers you play, the better your odds of winning.
Well, the 6th was our first date anniversary.
Aw, let's play both numbers.
With Cash Pop, you could win up to 250 times your wager. So pop in and play. Anything can happen in Jersey. Must be 18 or older to buy a lottery ticket. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Bigger, better, Boardwalk Honda.
Start your year off in a brand new Boardwalk Honda. Hurry in today and shop our complete new 2021 inventory. Civics, Accords, CRVs, you name it, we have it all from store to shore. And right now, get 0% APR financing for up to 60 months on select new Honda models. Or lease a new 2021 Civic Sedan LX front-wheel drive for $139 a month for 36 months. Plus, browse our entire selection of pre-owned and certified pre-owned Hondas. We're sure to have the vehicle you want at the price you want. Plus, we work with all credit situations. Boardwalk Honda partners with over 25 top financial lenders, so we'll help you get approved and on the road in your new Honda in no time. Take advantage of 0% APR financing on your new Honda today. Visit Boardwalk Honda today, located in Egg Harbor Township, or shop online at boardwalkhonda.com. And remember, from Maine to Miami, nobody beats a Boardwalk deal.
Bigger, better, Boardwalk Honda.
Call us toll free at 844-890-3390 for more details.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get back to your texts at 609-403-0973 and your comments on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter in just a moment. I want to remind everybody that Game Night is being brought to my friends over at weightliftinghq.com. January is almost over. It's going to be only a few more months till summer. What are your plans for the summer? Well, if your plans involve going to the beach or maybe doing something active outside, weightliftinghq.com is here to help you meet all of your health and fitness goals for the upcoming year. Whether you need a bench or squat rack, kettlebells, dumbbells, cardio and fitness machines, resistance bands, whatever you need to reach your health and fitness goals, weightliftinghq.com is here to help you reach those goals. They're located right here in South Jersey. They deliver anywhere in the tri-state area. They'll help you set up the equipment at your home, because we all know setting up equipment is one of the biggest pains in the world if you want to work out from your home. So go to weightliftinghq.com and use my code radio10 for 10% off your entire order. Yep, that's 10% off your entire order at weightliftinghq.com. Radio 10 at checkout for 10% off at weightliftinghq.com. Set a couple texts in here if we get back to the messages on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at 609-403-0973. Talk about Nick Sirianni introductory press conference today, where he said a lot of nothing and a lot of something all at the same time. Got a texter who says, just because Sirianni was asked a question by the media doesn't mean that he has to answer it truthfully. This is Rich in the Villas talking. some things should be kept in-house, especially for a first-year head coach who is walking into a quarterback controversy. This notion they have to be 100% forthcoming is laughable. That's Rich in the Villas. But it's not about being 100% forthcoming. It's about giving an answer that is going to basically state, look, this is our position, this is the situation, and I'm leaving it at that. I'm not going to sit here and have a long conversation about some of this stuff. No, it's about coming out and saying, I am aware of the situation. I am cognitive of the environment I'm walking into. I know what's been going on with Wentz and Hurts. And just say, I'm not announcing a starter right now. You don't get up there and say, I haven't even thought about it. Because that just comes off wrong. It's not a good look. It's a bad look, Rich. Listen, I'm with you. He doesn't have to give an answer. He doesn't have to declare Wentz or Hurts to be the starter. What he has to do is get up there and say, I'm aware of the situation. I'm not announcing a starter. It's too early. And by the way, Rich in the Villas, what's really laughable, as I said earlier, where does Jeffrey Lurie? Why was he just conveniently not answering questions? What's that about? Come on. A couple comments here. Let's go over to Facebook. We got Kevin Palick chimes in and says, how about the Eagle fans just judge a coach off of his ability to coach for once instead of caring so much about press conference answers? Press conferences are notorious for BS answers anyway. Well, Kevin, first of all, shout out to you because we went to high school together. So glad to see you're still listening to the station, chiming in on the feed. Second of all, it's not that we're judging completely off of the press conference and not off of the field. It's that this is the first opportunity people had to be introduced to this guy. And this is the first opportunity of the introduction. What do they have to say about first impressions? They mean everything. You're not going to tell me that if someone goes for a job interview or you working at a job and someone gets introduced to everybody for the first time, that if they say something weird or say something off, that you're going to be like, well, I'm not going to judge anything off of what they said. I'm just going to wait and see how they perform. No, you're going to get a first impression. First impressions mean a lot. First impressions mean a lot in life. And I think for Nick Sirianni, he is somebody who his first impression, it's a mixed bag. That's all. I think that there are some irrational Eagle fans who are always going to be irrational. I can't defend irrationality, but I can tell you from my perspective, Kevin, that when you think about the Philadelphia Eagles, this is a team that has shown us a lot of mixed signals. You fired a Super Bowl winning head coach after 5 years. You sent Howie Roseman down the hall to never be seen again, and then a year and a half later, he's back running the team. A lot of weird things have happened in Philadelphia the last few years. Get to more messages. We got Paul Westcott over on Facebook watching the show, says, this hire makes me really nervous. This could turn this franchise into the Cleveland Browns of old really fast. I'm hoping for the best. Well, first of all, I don't think you're turning into the Cleveland Browns of old anytime soon, because let's not forget, the Cleveland Browns weren't just a pitiful franchise. They couldn't make the playoffs. They had no quarterback stability. They had no head coaching stability. Now, if you want to say that there's a concern about the turnover at the quarterback or the head coaching position, if this happens again, I understand that. But try to pump the brakes a little bit. I understand that this is now the fourth head coach in Philadelphia in the last 10 years. That is a little concerning. You went from Reed to Kelly to Peterson to Sirianni. I get that. It makes you a little nervous. But it doesn't automatically make you the Browns. It doesn't automatically make you a 1-15, 2-14 football team. Doesn't automatically make you a bottom dweller in the NFL for multiple years in a row. This Eagles franchise has shown you the ability to get to the postseason despite a lot of things. Ray Rhodes and Chip Kelly both went to the postseason in their first years in Philadelphia. Andy Reid and Doug Peterson both got you to a Super Bowl. I think we need to give this a chance to play out a little bit. But I understand your nervousness. But if you want to draw an analogy to any team, I think the closer team you want to look at is the Falcons. Now, I'm not saying you want to be the Falcons either, but think about the Falcons. Whether it was Mike Smith, whether it was Dan Quinn, they were both get you to the postseason. That Quinn got you to the Super Bowl and lost it. But you could be a franchise and change your head coaches and still get to the postseason. You could be a franchise that has head coaching turnover because of lack of expectations or whatever else is going on and still make it to the postseason. So I don't think you're going to fall as low as the old Browns. 609-403-0973 is the text board as well. We'll get to your text in just a moment. I want to get to one more comment here on this stream. The Joe Show threw a couple comments. I'm only going to choose one of your comments, Joe Show, because I appreciate you chiming in so much, but we got to get to other comments as well and text as well. Joe Show says, Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman want too much control, and they wouldn't let Doug choose the team he wanted. I think it was a battle between Doug and Howie. I think Howie made it clear who he wants. Well, I'll clear something up with that, Joe. First of all, it's been confirmed by multiple people who cover the team, whether it's Sal Palantonio or Adam Kaplan or Jeff Mosher or other people who cover the Eagles, and people around the NFL. There was not a tension between Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman. I think that that's a perception and a theory out there that has been propagated by the Howie Roseman haters. It's not based in reality. There was no power struggle up there. Okay, this isn't the Dallas Cowboys with Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones and a power struggle going on when they brought in Barry Switzer to take over after Jimmy Johnson got kicked out. No, this is a situation where Howie was part of the process of hiring Doug Peterson. It was Howie, Doug, and Jeffrey Lurie that flew to North Dakota to interview Carson Wentz before they drafted him. It was Doug and Howie that worked hand in hand on a lot of things. The problem is that the reason why Doug is not here is less to do with Howie than it is with Jeff. I think that a lot of the Eagles fan base is not quick enough to blame the owner for this situation. Remember, Doug didn't want to fire the coaching staff last year and bring in all these new coaches like Morningweg and Scangarello and company. He was forced into that. Doug Peterson, according to reports, went to Jeffrey Lurie and said, look, I want to make Press Taylor the offense coordinator. And Lurie said, that's not going to cut it here. I'm not thrilled with your coaching options. I don't like your choices. If that's who you want to go with, I'm out. And maybe we need to go separate ways. So we're blaming stuff on Howie that really need to be blamed on the owner. The owner is the one who decided to go in this direction. The owner decided that he wanted Howie Roseman to be the executive vice president of football operations and the general manager. It's the owner who has kept the people in the organization that he has. It's the owner who spoke glowingly of Deuce Staley during the introductory presser today. One of his many comments for about 16 to 20 minutes, which I would never get out of my life back. So we are looking at Howie and say, well, Howie's this and Howie's that. Just remember, Howie has a job because he conveniently is the guy who has Jeffrey Lurie's ear. He is the guy who conveniently is the guy that Lurie trusts. And let's not forget, there are things that happen behind the scenes that we'll never know about until that tell-all book comes out in about 20 years that we're all going to be talking about and losing our minds about. Because when that tell-all book comes out by somebody in about 20 years, or even maybe, can we get a 30 for 30? I know Mike Gill is supposed to be interviewing the 30 for 30 guy, Ken Burns, again next week. Maybe we could ask Ken Burns on the sports batch. What's his name? Ken Rogers. Ken Burns did baseball, the baseball documentary. No, Ken Rogers for 30 for 30. Maybe Ken Rogers can work on a 30 for 30 with the Philadelphia Eagles and what happened with Doug Peterson. By the way, Joe Show comments as I respect that and agree. Well, Joe Show, I appreciate you chiming in and being part of the show here. Of course, you're also part of the Sports Badge, and you chime in there on 97.3 ESPN as well. 609-403-0973 is the text board as well. We can get to your text throughout the show as well. Coming up in just a bit, we will be joined by Jason Blevins, covers the Sixers for 97.3 ESPN.com. The Doc Rivers media call is still in progress right now. And interesting news updates coming out about the game tonight. Doc Rivers said that Joel Embiid participated in a shoot-around this morning. Doc Rivers also said that he expects Joel Embiid to play, but won't know for sure until warm-ups. Now, remember, the game is at 8 o'clock tonight. So we are still less than 90 minutes away from game time. So we're not going to have all the answers, it looks like, until the start of the game, which is a little disappointing. But you know what? Maybe that's just one of those situations where you just got to wait and see. I did find this news interesting. D'Angelo Russell will play tonight, according to reports. That is fascinating because if you looked at the injury report earlier the day on multiple websites, it listed D'Angelo Russell as out. Now he's in. I think that changes the conversation about the game tonight a little bit. You know, that 7-point spread that some people were looking at, that 7-point spread doesn't look so juicy like it did before. Maybe a little juicy, but not as juicy. Doc Rivers also said he likes to look at Ben Simmons as a small ball 5. So he'd like to have more practice time to work on that. Now that's fascinating. We'll have to ask Jason Blevins about that when he joins the show in a few minutes, because that's an idea that I've heard brought up by multiple people before about the idea of having a lineup where Ben Simmons is almost like a point center. And he basically plays defense as a center, but plays all over the floor offensively. And he would be basically your primary rebounder, shot blocker on defense. And I certainly think he's athletic enough to do it. He's certainly physically capable of doing that. But that's an interesting thing to have a conversation about. 100%. That I find fascinating. Now, do I love it? I don't know if I love it, but I think the idea is interesting to explore. I like the fact that Doc says he's open to the idea and would like more time to practice it and work on it, because I think a lineup that would have Shake Milton, Tyrese Maxey, maybe Tobias Harris, and I don't know, maybe like if you want to go super small, you go Danny Green, maybe not as small. Maybe when Mike Scott gets better, maybe you put him out there instead of Tobias Harris and you throw, Korkmaz out there. There's a few ways you can go with that. Maybe it's Seth Curry and Maxey in the backcourt, or Seth Curry and Shake Milton in the backcourt with Danny Green. There's a few ways you can go with that. Interesting comments from Doc Rivers so far in this media call. So we're going to ask Jason Blevins about that coming up here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Again, the text board is open at 609-403-0973. Also, we can get your comments on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We are live in the Matt Black Kia Studios, streaming for you to see myself wearing a Sixers shirt here on 97.3 ESPN. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can watch the Sports Bash with Mike Gill and Hunter Brody, as well as Game Night with myself here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you till 7 tonight.
It's Sixers basketball tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Free ball by Tobias is good. Oh, baby, like manna from heaven. Tobias Harris.
The Sixers are in Minnesota to face the T-Wolves. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
On some models, excludes Corvette. With GMF financing, excludes buyer's sale. See dealer for details.
Start the new year in a new Chevy at Bennett Chevy. Come see all the hot new 2021s and get our famous unbeatable Bennett deal. GM supplier employee pricing, plus you keep all the rebates. And right now, that could be up to 25% off MSRP. Yes, up to 25% off. Shop all you want, but there's just no beating Bennett. Looking for pre-owned? Bennett will pay you a minimum $7,000 for your trade towards any pre-owned in stock. That's at least $7,000, regardless of how or even if your old car runs. Imagine how much you'll get for a good trade. And you will absolutely love dealing with Bennett. There's no games, no gimmicks, just real deals and no need to negotiate, because our non-commissioned sales team is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Find new roads and start the new year in a new Chevy at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Do you love a good cigar almost as much as your family? Well, maybe that's an exaggeration, but you can find that perfect cigar at Smoker's Haven. With 5 New Jersey locations, Smoker's Haven has the finest selection of cigars in the area, like Ashton, My Father's, Romeo and Julieta, Monte Cristo, and more. All from the finest tobacco leaves and hand-rolled by the world's finest cigar makers. All locations are fully open. Stop in and let them help you find the perfect cigar to pair with your life. See all they have and their locations at smokershavennj.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/news. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job in ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And now you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ziprecruiter.com/free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
There's only one original stuffed crust, and it's only from Pizza Hut. The only place that gives you up to 3 toppings on your original stuffed crust for just $11.99. Order yours online at pizzahut.com. Ask or click for limited time offer. Extra charge for more toppings and extra cheese. Exclusions apply.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, live in the MapLack Kia Studios. Of course, text board is open at 609-403-0973. And, of course, you can watch the show on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Joining me right now on that stream here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, it is Jason Blevins coming right off of the Doc Rivers availability, jumping on here. Jason, I appreciate you jumping on right afterwards. So let's get to the thing I think most people want to know about. It looks like Joel Embiid is still a game-time decision.
Yeah, so I think Doc expects him to play. He did walk through the shoot-around this morning. This thing, really comes down to how well he loosens up right before the game. But if he was loose enough to be at shoot-around this morning, then most likely he will be loose enough to play tonight.
Now, does that surprise you at all? Because I think some people would say they're surprised because they feel like this would be a perfect opportunity for Embiid to maybe take a rest.
Well, I think he's got he knows that narratives are built early in a season. The MVP buzz is real. So I think there's that element. You don't want to take games off that reinforce the narrative that you're not available a lot. I also think that they have a lot of work to do to build their offense, and they need continuity to do that, and it all starts with him. So, I think it's important that he play as much as possible early on.
Now, you mentioned about him playing as much as possible early on. I think some people were also a little surprised that Joel Embiid kept playing in the game after falling on his back against the Lakers the other night. The narrative that's out there that, Joel Embiid, he's always hurt, blah, blah, blah. How much do you think about that has to do with his maturity? Something that we have talked about before, about the fact that this is a guy who's really kind of coming in just now into what might be considered his prime.
Well, if you look at just his physical growth over the first 4 or 5 years of his career, he's become just a massive person. And I think with that, there's an adjustment period with your tendons, with your bones. And what was I surprised to see him come out? Yeah, because it come back on the floor. Yeah, because the way that it looked that fall, it looked like there could easily be something structural that happened. But clearly he knew that it was just sore and he was able to keep it loose and go back out there. So, if there's no structural issue in that spot, and it would be like a fracture, they'd know by now. So he would have felt it. And I don't think it's a toughness issue. I think if anybody thinks it's a toughness issue with him, it's not. I think a lot of it was just, he grew like 2 or 3 inches from the time he was drafted and gained probably 70 pounds. So, 40 to 60 pounds, let's say. And your body takes time to adjust to that.
Jason Blevins joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, you can follow him Twitter at Blevins NBA for your Sixers and NBA coverage. Sixers versus TWolves tonight at 8 o'clock here on 97.3 ESPN. Jason, one of the things that also Doc talked about that really stood out to me was this idea of Ben as a small ball 5. And he said that's something that he would like time to practice with and look into. What are your thoughts on that? Because I thought that stood out to me a lot.
I don't like it. He's not a rim protector. To me, I mean, my personal feeling is you need a rim protector at all times on the floor. And they don't really have that secondary weak side rim protector on this team. So barring that, I wouldn't want to put a guy in the middle who, as good as a defender he is, certainly he can defend centers one-on-one. What he really just flat out isn't is a guy that's going to stop an opposing guard who's got downhill from scoring at the rim. It's just not who he is. So I know it's been talked about a ton. I don't personally see it. I think the numbers show that when he's been in that position, their defense is not great.
So with that being said, what is your preference? What do you think is best from Ben Simmons on the floor when it comes to being a defender? Because you mentioned he's great at guarding 1 through 5. Mm-hmm. How do you think is the best ways to utilize him defensively on the floor? I think that's something that people don't realize enough about him, how great of a defender he is. Everyone's just focused on, the shooting. Well, this guy is an all NBA level defender.
Yeah, what I really think he's elite at is 2 things. His vision and his intelligence, I think, are really well used early in games to sort of be a wing defender where he's defending in space a little bit, defending closer to the baseline. But then as the other team sort of gets into their offense and you see how they're hurting you, he can come and make an adjustment late and take away their best option. And he has the ability to go do that. You don't want him doing that from the start, because these guys are so good that they can adjust to how they're defended by anyone. But as a chess move later in the game, he just shuts off the valve of another team's best offense. And he has that ability. If you can let him hang back a bit, he's going to watch exactly what they're doing. LeBron does this as well. See exactly how they're attacking you, what they're doing to you, and then he shuts off that valve late in the game. And I think that's part of why they're so good right now late in games.
Jason Blevins joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers play tonight versus the Timberwolves. You can follow Jason on Twitter at Blevins NBA for all your Sixers and NBA coverage. Of course, catch all of his work at 97.3 ESPN.com as well. Jason, going into this game tonight, this is the first road game in a little while for the Sixers. So what should we expect to see from them in the first of a 3-game road trip?
Yeah, you want to see energy. You want to see them executing in half court with some sort of structure. See that they're really getting more comfortable with the sets. And Doc said it. We a couple of us asked questions about his offense. If the other team shows that they can't stop what they're doing, that they continue to go to that well and they just force that team to figure out how to stop some of these actions. And so you want to see, if you see them run the same play 4 or 5 times in a row, that means that those are reps that are important. And also that means that they are really forcing the other team to figure out ways to defend them. That those are all good signs. So those are the things I'd look for. I don't think Minnesota's a great defensive team. Historically, they haven't been. D'Angelo Russell's not a great defender. Anthony Edwards is a rookie who's got a lot of bounce, has some upside, but mostly offensively. So I would look at, do they run the same play multiple times, getting different shots out of the same action? You see that, then you know that they're playing the game they want.
After a win like they had over the Lakers on Wednesday, how much can they carry over into this road trip? How much positivity can they bring with them considering the fact that historically this team, they're just not been a great road team at all.
I wish I had the answer. And if Doc had the answer for that, or Brett Brown had the answer for that, we'd see it changed. I don't have the answer for why they lack energy at times. But tonight is a game they should absolutely win. They should this should be a workmanlike, business-like win, regardless of crowd, no crowd, energy, no energy, good hotel, bad hotel. This should be a win.
Of course, they got the game tonight versus the TWolves here on 97.3 ESPN. Then Sunday versus the Pacers. Both can be heard right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Tom McGinnis on the call 8 o'clock tonight. Jason Blevins joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. At J Blevins NBA on Twitter for all your Sixers and NBA coverage. Jason, one more before I let you go, and I always appreciate you jumping on. Sure. Obviously, the news that came out that affected a lot of people was John Chaney passing away. Just a legend in the Philadelphia basketball scene. I don't think there's two ways of putting that any other way. I just want to give you an opportunity to just give your thoughts on that.
He was a legend, and I had the opportunity to be on campus at Temple during the Rick Brunson, Aaron McKee, Eddie Jones era, and seeing we shared the same dorm building. So I would see those guys all the time, and they would complain about the early practices. But you watch their growth and maturity as people. He was an innovator in some ways defensively at the college level with the 2-3 matchup zone. It was a place, McGonigal Hall was a place nobody wanted to ever go into. And he was just absolutely a legend. We were in awe of the guy, on a college campus, and he just had the toughest, most Philadelphia essence to him. And when you start looking at what really defines Philadelphia, it's people like John Chaney with that just toughness, smart, knowledgeable, grizzled, innovative, bold. The guy, I can't say enough about him. It's a highlight of my life to have spent time around them.
Yeah, if nothing else, John Chaney was fearless, as we all know, of anyone and anything at all points in time. And we also learned tonight that, Jason, you are about 10 years older than me. Congratulations.
There you go.
He's Jason Blevins. You can follow Twitter at JBlevins NBA for all your Sixers and NBA coverage. Sixers TWolves tonight on 97.3 ESPN. Jason, appreciate you jumping on after Doc Rivers' media call.
Hey, thanks, Josh.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget about my friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. That's right. You can celebrate the Super Bowl with 55-1 odds on FanDuel Sportsbook. That's right. If you never tried FanDuel Sportsbook, then you can get 55-1 odds. You can turn $5 into $275 when you pick the winner of the big game. But all you have to do is sign up with the promo code Hennig, Hennig, when you sign up for FanDuel Sportsbook. So if you think the Kansas City Chiefs or the Tampa Bay Bucks are going to win the Super Bowl, use my promo code Hennig, Hennig, when you sign up with FanDuel Sportsbook to get 55-1 odds on the Super Bowl. Must be 21 or to play. President NJ or PA. For full terms, see conditions at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And I told you I would give you my pick for the night here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm with Jason on this. He made the comment earlier, and I'm going to echo it. I think the Sixers should win this game and should win this game easily. No Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell coming off of an injury. The line is barely moved, actually. It was at 7, now it's at 7.5. That Embiid hasn't been ruled out. To me, whether Embiid plays or not shouldn't matter. I think that this game should be an easy win for the Sixers, so I'll take the 7, 7.5, whatever. And, of course, the DFS player of the night that I am going to go with, keep an eye out for what is going on in Washington versus the Hawks. Rondo is back tonight, which means I expect Trae Young to have a huge game. He seems to have these massive games when Rondo is playing more often when he doesn't play. So Trae Young's your DFS pick, and then the sportsbook pick for FanDuel Sportsbook is 7.5 Sixers over TWolves. Tonight, the action starts 8 o'clock on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig. I'll catch you tomorrow at 12 p.m.
Hey everyone, it's Billy Schwein from the Locker Room. We have a lot to cover this weekend. The Eagles introduced their new head coach. The Phillies signed JT Realmuto, and the Flyers and Sixers win. Saturday, we'll talk with former Paulsboro Red Raider Temple Allen, Kansas City Chief Kevin Ross. Kevin is headed to Super Bowl 55 as a coach with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Sunday, my guest is Mark Eckel, who covered the Eagles for 32 years for the Trenton Times. Mark will give us his perspective on the Birds' new coaches. All the action starts every Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff. Learn more, live better.
Do you really look at the nutrition label, or do you just dig right into what you're eating? The